Hey, I'm Justin.
This is Tony.
We're here on our digitally speaking, digital soapbox podcast where Tony and I struggle to stay on topic. I'm here with Mr. Analog, Mr. Vinyl, DJ Spiral, Tony Castile, and I am a mess. So, to
say the least.
To say the least. Tony, what are we talking about today?
We're going to go with the topic of disc media versus streaming media.
Okay, so this topic has been beaten to death, right? But we've got a lot of shaking and baking going on in hard disk. Bacon. Okay, now I'm really distracted. Right.
Sorry.
So now we've got a lot of shaking going on in the hard disk media sector of how we watch our entertainment. So, Best Buy announced later last year, November, December-ish of 2023, that they're no longer going to carry in mass production hard disk media platforms. So, meaning they're not going to carry Blu-ray, DVD, CD. They got discoed a long time ago, or any of that type of stuff.
But then you had another big powerhouse of Disney that announced that in what we thought was a big announcement in itself, that they weren't going to be selling hard disk media in Australia any longer.
And New Zealand, too, yeah. I think
and New Zealand, yes.
Yeah.
Since then, they have also, for people like myself that are even aware of the Disney Movie Club, that by year's end, that will be no more. They're ending their movie club.
So, Tone, what is the Disney Movie Club? For those that don't know about, I have no clue what I would have never known about that thing. And how long has it been
to not
around?
sound like an advertisement for it, it was a movie club that had been around somewhere around 23 years, which would have put it starting back all the way back with VHS and stuff like that. But it's where, if you ever remember the Columbia House days where you bought, you got 10 CDs for a penny. With Disney Movie Club, you had to buy 5 movies at regular price, and then from then on, after that obligation, you got deep discounts on movies from that point forward.
Okay, so, yeah, that's huge. We knew they stopped their production plant. They tiptoed around that information. I'd say back in January is when we first saw that information, and then that was an interesting topic and deal for me, because that was not just Disney. Disney owns a lot of companies, guys. Disney owns 20th Century Fox. They own MGM. That's always been a Disney company since the beginning of time.
But Lucasfilm, Hulu,
Marvel.
ESPN. You're talking about some of the most influential companies in sports, entertainment, and movies.
So we would consider them an industry authority on that particular matter. Meaning that they're. You think of 20th Century Fox, you think of Avatar, Die Hard, Night at the Museum, Ice Age, How to Train Your Dragon. Just the list goes on and on and on. This company is saying that we no longer want to make hard disk media. So we don't know if that influenced the decision of Best Buy. We just don't. Now, for those that have seen the Best Buy barren shelf pictures on Facebook and on the internet, that is a complete farce. That's not what Best Buy looks like. Best Buy Corporate One would never allow their store to look that way. That was a remodeling photo that's just kind of been blown out of proportion. So they still, to correct that statement, they still carry hard disk media. It's just
it's just a smaller, it's going to go more of if you've ever seen at places like Walmart and stuff like that, where they have a little bin where it's popular movies that are out at that time.
Right.
So it's gonna more go of way of that. It's not just gonna be where you can go in and say, "Oh, I want to go get a copy of Chevy Chase's Funny Farm."
Right.
No,
it's not
going to be like that.
No, all that stuff's gone. And unfortunately, because I was a movie I wouldn't say I like to habitually buy disc. I kind of cut that obsession down a little bit. But it was one of those things where it was just fun to hunt for them. Like, oh, this was a great movie, and you just stand around and talk about the movie instead of actually buying them. Maybe that was the downfall of it. I
was
know.
the guy at Walmart that stacked up all the movies in the $5 bin looking for stuff. I was that guy.
Yeah, you were that guy. So a lot of interesting things. Excuse me. A lot of interesting things in the hard disk media category. So we've talked about Best Buy, they're not carrying it anymore. Disney jumping out of media production in general. We did get some really interesting news about Disney that Sony has actually
teaming up.
Yeah, Sony's actually stepped up to the plate. Now this
is kind of a big deal though, because Sony's like big in the world of projectors, which is what you see in movie theaters.
Well, they're big in the world of movie production in general. You know, it's just they're the only consumer electronic brand that owns a movie studio. You know, like, you know, you can't go buy a Paramount projector, but you can buy a Sony projector, you know, so, or a Universal projector, you can buy a Sony projector. So it's strangely enough, they actually did pull out of the movie projector business. They're not doing movie as of last year. They actually pulled out of that market, which is very odd to me, because that was the sales pitch: is this is the only brand you'll find in a movie theater and in your home. So also interesting shift in that market. So with that being said, Sony came out of the woodworks and said, okay, you don't want to produce these things anymore. We're going to do your movie production, not direction, but just hard disk production.
I could be wrong, but I think that sounds more like, my personal opinion, sounds more like a financial decision. Because now they can dedicate more of that money that they were putting into the production of DVDs, Blu-rays, and so on and so forth. Now they can put that money into more of the production of movies, but I could be wrong on that. So I know we keep going back to Disney. You know, this hasn't been the best year for Disney. You know, they've had a hard year. They had a hard year last year. They had a hard. Well, let's go back 4 years. They had a hard year during COVID. They shut all their parks down. They started up Disney Plus, which was interesting. They acquired several companies. They acquired 20th Century Fox for $71 million. By the way, just real quick, this is not a Disney ad.
It's not a Disney ad. No, it's not a Disney ad. But it's hard to talk about this subject without talking about them, because they're one of the largest kids on the block, even after acquiring 20th Century Fox. And actually, that's the main reasoning behind it. You know, MGM has never been a grandioso giant studio in comparison to something like Universal or Paramount or something like that. But I turned Canadian for a minute, Paramount. But that was funny. Come on, that was a little funny.
Well,
I'm an
I
accent
can't
guy.
hear my smile, but it was there.
I'm an accent guy. I love that. So, but the fact that they acquired 20th Century Fox and they own the majority share in Hulu, now Lucasfilm and Marvel. So that's all your Marvel movies, all your Avatar movies, and all your Star Wars movies, all your Indiana Jones movies, all your Die Hards and Deadpools and all this stuff.
So only other people to really compete with that then is HBO that owns DC.
Correct. And then now you have, you have Universal, Paramount, Lionsgate, and the spinoffs of that, Miramax, and if you can even say Miramax anymore, don't know.
But you can't go to HBO Land or HBO World.
True, correct. Yeah, no. So so Disney has the deepest pockets, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we're kind of going back and forth in and out of Disney. So going back, Disney had a hard year in 2020. With the Disney park stuff. 2021, they started getting into we're gonna dip our toe in the water. We're not jumping off into that, because that is a minefield that we don't want to jump into. They decided to jump into political territory, whether you line up with them or not. You know, if you look at Tony's desk, he's got the backpack, the T-shirt, the hat, the stickers, the coffee cups, the shoes, the keychains. Maybe not shoes. That was probably rumor.
I don't have shoes.
Socks,
not yet, anyway.
Socks.
I do have socks.
Sweatshirts, members only jacket. You name it. Tony's probably either looked at it, thought about purchasing it, or purchasing it. But that does not mean that he aligns with a lot of the decision making.
Some of their views are still kind of out there.
Some of their views are askew, as Kevin Smith would say. So, with that being said, we don't align with any of that stuff and don't want to dip our toe in it. So, they've taken a dip. And so I don't see the political part being the dip. I think that does have a little bit to do with it. I see it being a mass production of content for their Disney Plus channel. I think.
And one also thing that I just came to mind, we hadn't discussed this part.
Yeah.
Is you also have the great race to become more eco-friendly. Maybe that's a direction they're going with this. Who knows?
Sure. No, I think it has to do with their streaming platform did not launch as hard as they wanted it to. And the way to shift out of that is to force people to go into streaming. Which brings us to our actual topic. Is streaming as hard disk media versus streaming. So, before Tony and I jump into, he almost became Joni. Before Tony and I jump into the great debate of streaming versus hard disk media, this is why we need to record this on camera, because that would have been funny on that one.
This will turn into a video podcast at some point.
At some point, because the silent Bob.
Because then people will really, really get where I'm coming from.
The silent Bob looks that I'm getting is actually quite comical. I have to put that down, otherwise you're going to hear clicking through the whole thing. Because I'm a fidgeter, I like to fidget, especially when I'm on Red Bull or whatever this off-brand is that I'm drinking.
We'll just go with
sell
we're not
something.
Pay anybody.
Yeah. So we're not going to pay anybody. Nobody's going to listen to this anyway. So anyway,
not for now. Let's get a little bigger first.
Yeah, exactly. So with that being said, hard disk media versus streaming. Now I'm a DVD warrior. I've had DVD collections and Blu-ray collections and heck even HD DVD collections. That date back 20 plus years ago, and
I've had 8-track collections. I don't know what that says about me.
Yeah, we won't go there. It's a whole different. That's Mars in this cat. That's like a whole different distance of category there. So I'm a warrior for hard disk media. I enjoy looking for it. I have always enjoyed purchasing it. I've always owned it in mass quantities up until those collections were relieved of my presence, and it's something that's always been a heritage fun to me. I remember the Blockbuster. I remember the Hollywood Video.
Suncoast.
I remember.
Suncoast was awesome. That's where I actually got The Crow on VHS for $100. But I had one of the 2 copies. They were sent to Humble, which, if you don't know where that's at, it's on the north side of Houston.
Yeah. No. Yes, so boutique movie stores came to a close, meaning Blockbuster, digital killed the video store. Instead of video killed the radio star, it was streaming killed the video store.
Funny fact on that is Video Killed the Radio Star was the first video ever played on MTV.
On MTV, yep. What was the second?
Don't know that.
It's like the second kid. No, it's
redheaded stepchild. Nobody.
What's funny. What's funny is the first kid. You always have pictures of everything. You always have this. You always have that. You always wash the bottles, overwash the bottles, things like that. And then the second
one,
kid
you're like, oh, he'll survive it.
It's fine. He'll survive it, which is why his immune system's always better than the first kid. It's fine. So that was a poor humor, by the way. So going back to it, I loved hard disk media. Tony loves hard disk media. Now, I adopted streaming
long before me.
Earlier than Tony did, but for different reasons. One, again, I didn't want to go rebuy the movie collection, and again, my movie collection dated back from VHS to DVD to Blu-ray to HD DVD to Blu-ray again because HD DVD died, and then I never really got into Ultra HD. I think I just kind of stopped buying stuff around the time Ultra HD because I just didn't feel like buying my movies for the 1500th time.
I just didn't want to pay the price.
Well, that too, yeah. No, Ultra HD was incredibly expensive.
So much more expensive.
They were when they first came out. Now, not so. In modern day, not as much. But back when they first came out, they were like $38. I mean, they were twice the price of a normal Blu-ray. So,
I think some of the with the not so much on the price thing that you're saying there is because now we're trying to see the reduction of the inventory at places like Best Buy and Walmart and Target and those kind of places. So they're kind of reducing some of that price just to get rid of that stuff so that they can now focus in on like either the new releases or like staple movies.
So there's
collections.
Right. Well, there's been a decline in hard disk media. Everybody knows it. We've seen the decline. The numbers don't lie. The pie chart, the linear graph does not lie. It went from last year or the year before, year prior. So let's go from 2022 to 2023. In 2022, the production year was 1.8 billion for hard disk media, meaning they sold 1.8 billion dollars worth of physical media.
That's billion with a B.
Units. And this year, at the close of last year, it was 753 million.
Oh, I thought it was a little bit lower than that. I thought it was like 730 something.
Oh, anyway. Maybe it was 730. It was probably 735. So dyslexia wins again. So, so 735 million, which is the biggest dip that's ever been seen in the history of Blu-ray. Blu-ray or that particular technology. It's been on a steady climb or plateau, but last year was the first year we've seen it I'm not talking about just a little bump. I'm talking about a huge bump.
I'm not going to disagree that is a huge drop. Now, you do have to also look at the fact that there has been a huge drop in sales of all kinds of unnecessary markets.
Okay. Correct. Yeah. So economy's in the pooper.
Just meaning that
things
stuff
that are more
you
expensive.
don't. Just meaning also stuff that we don't need.
Stuff's more expensive.
You don't need that Blu-ray, even though you want it. You don't need it.
But let's think about this for a minute. No, you're weird, so you don't count.
Well, state your question anyway.
Okay. Yeah. No. So, for instance, let's switch a gear for a minute. So, streaming video games have become a thing.
Okay.
Right? And if
but Steam has been doing that for a while now. It's just picking up.
100.
It's just picking up steam.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's punny. Yeah. No. So
that wasn't intentional. It just happened.
No, it just happened. Yeah. It just happened. So.
But with the fact that now you've got Sony building in PlayStation into their TVs, and then
actually that's not true. So what you can do, you touched on this the last discussion you and I had on it.
I know Xbox is.
If you have a Sony PlayStation in the home already,
okay,
you can then use a Sony television to play multiplayer if you don't have two PlayStations. I think is how that Sony thing works. It's not that you can just download PlayStation Live on a Sony television, get a controller, and
see. Now I've done research since then.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
As far as Xbox, though,
okay,
Xbox is being built into I think Samsung TVs because that's a Microsoft-based thing, and those, with what I've read recently, with that right there, if you have an Xbox controller, you're good to go.
Didn't know that. So I do because
So I don't want to buy an Xbox, but I'll buy a Samsung TV, and I've already got Xbox controllers because
So-
there's somebody else in my house that plays Xbox.
So we purchased a Sony TV recently, and that's how I figured out, because I was like, oh, I'm going to research this PlayStation Live thing. And that's...
Oh, yeah, because you actually...
I have an
You
OLED.
have an- and you have an account.
I bought a newer Sony OLED, and I went down the rabbit hole to see if I could do it. To your point, on the PlayStation side of it, you must have a PlayStation in the home to be able to do it.
Okay, so that's just something then I guess they haven't worked out with their TVs yet that Xbox has worked out with Samsung.
But going full circle...
But not really our point anyway.
No, not at all. So going full circle, coming back from Mars, as a parent, depending on the market and the temperament of my child, I would do anything to not have to get in a car, drive to the mall, and go to a GameStop to buy a physical copy of said disc. Do you think hard disk media falls into that, or do you think streaming falls into that platform? You're there, it's let me set the stage. It's Friday night, you're sitting there with your kid wants to watch Inside Out 2. Do you just jump into Disney Plus and hit play? Or do you say, okay, let's go to Wally World and go buy a disc and do that? That's where streaming kind of comes into play.
I'm not always a fair judge on this one. But, if it's a movie that I really just didn't care about, but my kid really wanted to see it, like you were saying.
Right.
If I didn't really care about the movie, I would probably just do the digital download of it and be done.
And be done. Yeah.
Because
same
I've
as the
actually
disc.
done that.
Now let me talk. Let me jump into digital.
But real
download.
quick with that before we get too far away from that.
Go ahead.
Is with that, if I downloaded it, and this is where I'd kind of shoot myself in the foot, if I did end up liking it, I'd probably go try and find the disc somewhere then. After the fact, because if it ended up being something that I didn't end up liking.
So Tony, what is your attraction to disc? So you have a 600 plus disc library.
Yeah, which is, as we figured out earlier, somewhere around the ballpark of $9,000 to $12,000. Yes.
Thank you.
That's a very big investment.
Thank you for kicking me in the proverbial crotch.
You're welcome.
With how much you've spent on movies. Yeah, no. So, with that being said,
where do I stand?
yeah, where do you stand on hard disk?
Okay,
Where's
so
your-
I do not hate streaming. So just so that
it's
we
convenient,
understand that,
right? It's
there is a convenience to
the
it.
pizza roll versus ordering a pizza. You know, it's
Yes.
just convenient.
But now I take my decision making on this in a different realm than most people. I like to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it. Now, as we all know, across the entire U.S., recently,
As of 2 days ago, 3 days ago?
there was a major internet outage. Well, if I was sitting at home, which on one of those days I was off,
True.
I would have been. I was watching TV. Now, if I had been on one of those networks that went out, then I wouldn't have been able to watch stuff. But as long as I had the disc, I can pop the disc in my PlayStation, Xbox, Blu-ray player, whatever, and watch it. Where I hate the fact that if I solely commit to streaming, then at that point, if there's ever an outage or a storm, or if some idiot is mowing my next door neighbor's lawn and they hit a major cable that knocks the internet out, then I'm screwed. So,
Okay.
I like the fact that at any given time I can watch exactly what I want to watch, versus the other where like there are factors that can screw that up for me. Besides the fact that I've got 600 plus movies at home, and I can choose from those 600 plus movies versus going onto my streaming platform where I have thousands of choices, and it takes me over an hour just to choose a movie.
Sometimes I fall asleep trying to choose a movie.
Sometimes I get tired of it.
She'll come home and she's like, "What are you doing?" And the TV's off, and I'm just sitting there, and I was like, "Oh,
I couldn't find anything to watch."
I was trying to pick a movie, and I fell asleep.
Exactly, because you get after a while, it's just too many choices. It's too overwhelming.
So let me springboard off of that for a minute. So that's a great point. You know, physical media gives you the option of actually physically walking to your collection and finding a movie and all that good stuff. And that's good fun. So with that being said, here's what I'll say when buying a piece of hard disk media versus streaming. You own the disc. You own the disc. You know, so when you go buy a copy of The Crow, you own The Crow. If I buy a copy of The Crow on Amazon Prime or Apple TV or Roku or Hulu, Vudu, Udu,
you own
whatever,
the right to watch it.
You own the right to watch it. You don't actually own the platform. So this wasn't on our springboard list, but it's a good point. So, and it kind of validates what Tony's talking about. So, for instance, if I don't know, let's pick somebody in controversy, Kevin Spacey. So Kevin Spacey got into some hot water with a lot of weird stuff. I'm not an advocate for Kevin Spacey. I don't care. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I do care.
Okay, you could say the dude from The Flash also.
It doesn't matter. I just pick Kevin Spacey because he's been hot in the media at the moment, or Bill Cosby, whoever. Pick somebody. Throw a dart at dartboard. Somebody that's made somebody angry.
O.J. Simpson.
There you go. That's a safe one. If O.J. Simpson, so you're not gonna be able to watch Naked Gun. Got it.
So funny.
So if I like an actor, which in some cases you really shouldn't, that got into some hot water, or they made somebody mad. Chris Pratt's another one that didn't make somebody mad in a bad way. He just said something twisty that hurt someone's feelings, and everybody jumped on the cancel movement. Again, I don't want to dip my toe in the water very easily. Anyway, but if in some way, shape, or form, he makes Apple or Roku or Amazon angry, where they side with culture and they want to cancel this person out. They can remove. So let's go back to Kevin Spacey. They can remove Seven or K-Pax. Jeez, K-Pax.
It's a great movie.
Wow. Okay. K-Pax. If they remove K-Pax for the two people that have it in their collection.
I don't have it in my collection, but when I see it on TV, I do
stop. If they remove Usual Suspects, if they remove they can pull that movie out of your library.
Is he in Smoking Aces?
Yes. Even after you've paid your $19, you don't get your $19 back. They just pull the movie from your library. So if that happens...
That makes me want to take $19 out of their ass, but I can't.
But you can't. So if that happens in your heart, nobody's knocking on your door to say, hey, I need to remove these 4 movies from your collection or 10 movies from your... It doesn't matter. You know, whether you align with that person or what happened or not, on the streaming platform, they can digitally remove your access to that particular content. So, not to mention, disc versus streaming, disc is always better than streaming.
Well, the thing is on that right there, unless they screwed up in the production of the disc, it's not compressed.
Correct.
It's compressed, but not at the level that streaming services are.
It's compressed to a point that they can fit it on the physical disc.
Right.
So it is compressed.
But when they came out with dual layer disc and all of that, the amount that they had to compress it was even less.
Between 15 to 20% is where you're at. Yeah, no, so and the thing is movie studios learned that. So typically what they were compressing was a combination of audio and video. On the streaming platform, it leans more toward the audio. And because think about it, you're not going to watch something that looks like crap. You're just not going to do it. Now,
Some people do, and I just don't understand why, but that's another subject.
But you won't notice it if it sounds different. I mean, I would and you would, but you don't really notice it if it sounds different because you don't have a contrast to compare it to, right? I mean, I would say that's a fair point.
Well, yeah,
Streaming
because I
versus
mean, here
hard disk.
where we've got the disc, we've got the streaming, and we've got the Kaleidoscape, which is the best out of all of them. Kaleidoscape is the best.
Kaleidoscape is amazing. We cannot say good enough things about our friends at Kaleidoscape, and
that format is the closest you can get without sitting in the actual mastering studio.
Yep, it is the mastering. It is the mastered version.
But that's what I'm saying. The only other place you would get that same quality is sitting there when they're mastering.
Sure. Yeah. No. To me. So.
Sorry, I know.
Kaleidoscape. No. I'm glad you did. So Kaleidoscape. There's a lot of people that poo-poo on Kaleidoscape. There's a lot
because it's expensive.
It's because it's expensive. It's like it reminds me of the same people that talk crud about Ferraris or Lamborghinis or Maseratis or
Betamax over VHS.
Wow. Holy.
You're welcome.
Dude, you want to talk about spins me right around like a record. Holy crud. That was a okay, yeah, no, I'm trying to go back with my ADHD. It just kicked in. So going back to Kaleidoscape, so to Tony's point, is the direct studio cut of the film. The second
all
best,
its glory, all the channels,
everything,
all the sounds,
everything. Yeah, no, and so in my opinion, when he and I did a direct comparison of Apple TV, you name a movie, doesn't matter. Let's say Top Gun Maverick. That's the hot one that everybody wants to blow their preview brain out with right now because it won Best Soundtrack of the Year last year. Not because of the Lady Gaga song, no offense, but it had to do with the audio production of the movie. Lady Gaga is awesome or not, whatever you think. I'm not jumping into that. So anyway,
like her weirdness,
like she's weird, like Tony, so it fits. So with that being said, there is, Tony, it is not,
you
you would agree on this, it is not a night and day difference. I mean, it is not a subtle difference. It is
it's night and day.
It's like going from VHS to Blu-ray difference. I mean, it is huge between streaming Apple TV platform, which is, to me, Apple TV is the authority of the platform.
The place where Kaleidoscape is a small margin of difference is with, once again, hard disk media. That's where, like,
yeah, it's like 10%.
Yeah, it's like you gotta really be looking for the difference.
Yeah, and it's so what's weird on the hard disk difference, it's the video and not the audio, but on streaming comparison, it's the audio, not the video.
Like you can hear, I would say, a 50% volume change.
Huge. Yeah, no, it's easily 20 to 30 dB.
But the reason that you're hearing that difference, it's not because it actually gets louder. And that's the misconception of it. It's not getting louder.
Right?
You're hearing it uncompressed.
So Tony, you're a audio engineer. You're a professional. That's what you've been factory trained with. You've got you've got an ear for that. Can you hit on what does compression mean? Is it fitting a file size into a container and you got to squish it?
Yeah, it's like basically when you compress something, everything's got to fit within a ceiling and a floor, and anything that does not fit in that ceiling and floor gets chopped off.
And why would somebody do that? Is it to make it louder? Is it to fit it in a smaller space?
Compression helps you turn it down so that you can turn it up in the simplest way of putting it.
So
but at the same time, you do lose quality.
Okay.
Because in order to turn that down and it to fit that ceiling and floor amount of data, sometimes some does get chopped off, which means you lose quality. So, now, the everyday person, until shown the difference with Kaleidoscape versus a compressed version of something, probably wouldn't even notice it.
So
but once somebody actually hears the difference, they'll never go back. They'll never be able to sit there and listen to something the same because now they've heard what they hadn't heard before.
So what, in a layman's version of what he just said, is in order to be able to push a button while sitting on your tuchus, push a button on your remote and trying to get to a certain movie or content within a timely manner, that file must be contained and made significantly smaller to be able to do that.
Yeah, and some of that requires, like, them, say you've got a movie that's 250 just gunshot sounds.
And that was, so Saving Private Ryan, that was the first 30, that was the Storming the Beaches of Normandy. Yeah.
So just to fit all of those tracks in it, they have to now take down and take those 250 tracks.
7.
And mix it down to, if you've only got a 5.1.
Right.
They've got to mix it all the way down to 5 channels. So in order to do that, they've got to start combining stuff. Yep. And then you can only combine so much to the point that eventually some stuff just gets lost.
So this is a Mars topic. We're going to go to Mars in about a minute. In a minute. So what he said was absolutely dead on. Cannot agree with it more.
But that's like the dork side.
But what happened with movie production is it used to take months to almost a year to go from out of the movie theater to the disc because of that production process. And then what the movie studios decided was they're spending, this is way too much information, probably that most people care about. What the movie studios decided was, hey, we're tired of paying these engineers like Tony millions of dollars to do this every year. Let's look at our bottom line and deficit here. Let's make the AV receiver companies do it. We're just going to give them all the tracks, and if their AV receiver can decipher the tracks, then the information's just there. That's what actually happened, which is actually a really cool thing, because you could have something like a Trinov, which is 32 channels, or you can go up as high as 64 to 100 or whatever, with some of these movie processors, if you get into a commercial movie processor. And the information's there if you have a disc or a kaleidoscope. That is not the same.
Speakers to cover it.
That is not the same case with streaming. Streaming, that information's not there. It's condensed to 7-channel Dolby Atmos at the most, which means if
that
you have
much data couldn't be streamed.
Nope.
You couldn't stream it.
You'd
fast
have to
enough,
download it.
Too much.
You'd have to download it. Like Kaleidoscape. So and Kaleidoscape, guys, Kaleidoscape is not a streamer. Kaleidoscape, you are actually downloading the 60 to 80 to 110 gigabit file, which takes anywhere, depending on internet connection, 5 minutes to 15 minutes, depending on what your speed is on your internet.
If you're on dial-up days.
Years, months. Or months, years. Yeah, so with that being said, the streaming falls into the instant gratification territory. It's, I want a movie right now. I do not want to get off my rear end.
Or the cool thing is you can be like out to dinner with your girlfriend, significant other,
sure,
whatever, and say, hey, you want to watch a movie when we get home? You can go into your app on your phone, tell your player at home to start downloading that movie, and then by the time you get home, it's waiting for you.
That works on Kaleidoscape and Apple Movies. I don't know about Amazon, but I know Apple Movies works that way. or Apple TV Plus works that way. You can go to the Apple TV Plus app, buy the movie, and it's there even on your phone. Like you can watch the movie on your phone if you want to, which is also interesting, which you cannot do on Kaleidoscape. But again, that's streaming. That's not downloading. Now, Kaleidoscape, when we talk about that hairy little subject about if the world gets mad at an actor or a movie studio or whatever, and just they decide to pull the plug on all those movies, Kaleidoscape, you own the rights to that movie. You own the rights to the movie just like you own the disc.
So, with all the problems with Kevin Spacey and you owned K-Pax, you wouldn't lose shit.
You would not lose your you would not lose your K-Pax movie. Right. So, for the three people that wanted to watch
you
that
are
movie,
welcome for that reference.
the three people that wanted to watch K-Pax, you would not want to watch K-Pax, or you would not lose your K-Pax movie. You may as well throw Powder into that category as well.
Hey,
so
that was another good movie too.
So apparently Tony likes random alien movies with dry acting and The Wraith was a great movie ish. It was a great movie. So anyway, with that being said, Kaleidoscape, your media is safe, and disc, your media is safe. Streaming, not so safe, and not so safe if you lose internet.
And also, depending upon which streaming service you decide to go with, say you use another Disney product, going way back there now, there's another product called Movies Anywhere, where any movie you purchase can go into there. But with Movies Anywhere, you're not safe. And also, if you have a Paramount movie, Paramount and Disney don't jive with each other, so you can't put your Paramount movies into Movies Anywhere. You're just screwed on that. Yeah, no,
Walt Disney is the main shareholder for Movies Anywhere.
I believe Movies Anywhere started.
It started as Ultraviolet, is actually what it was called.
Yes, and that used to work with Walmart.
Yep, it was affiliated with Walmart. Actually, I'm going to take you even further back. It was actually affiliated with a company called Vudu, VUDU, that had their
what's confusing,
Vudu player. What's that? The MGM.
Well, look, because you can't get Paramount
or Lionsgate
MGM
anymore.
or Lionsgate, but MGM is a Disney company.
I think that is odd to me, but you don't see as many movies in. I think that has to do with MGM having an affiliation with Sony, so that'll be also interesting because
I think that merger, or not really merger, that relationship is going to change.
Well, so we've started seeing a lot of relationship changes with Sony and Disney, and it starts with Spider-Man. It starts with Disney. Sony has owned the rights to Spider-Man for the better course of 20 years.
Well, Disney wants to own the world. That was really Walt's whole thing. Yeah. He wanted to be.
Yeah, they just need to stop screwing up movies. So, but well, that's a different subject.
That's a bad choice of employees.
True. So, hopefully there's light at the end of the tunnel with that. But so going between it, streaming versus disc versus Kaleidoscape. Kaleidoscape is the
clear winner.
Winner, but not for everyone. Not.
It's for people like myself that don't have already spent $9,000 and don't want to spend $9,000 again just to get the movies I've already owned.
But that's not $9,000 just for the movies. That's $9,000 for the player, dog. I mean, that's
right. So that's $18,000.
Yeah, no,
just to get back to zero.
Just to get back to zero. Yeah, no. So I see your point.
That's just not going to happen.
No, Kaleidoscape does have an attractive program for people that do have massive movie collections where they can do disc to digital. No, that is not a ripping software.
That doesn't mean that you're taking the content on your disc and moving it over to the player.
What it is
it's not what you're doing.
It is a coupon program set up via the movie studio,
which gets you a discount, and the discount for the
pretty
movie
significant.
It really just depends on when you buy it, on what kind of deal they're offering on that particular movie.
It depends on the studio too. Like I said, what was the movie we thought was interesting? Fast and the Furious 10, which honestly they should have paid you to watch the movie.
I thought it was that Gran Turismo movie that was $5.
Right. So Gran Turismo, brand new movie, $5. Brand new studio movie, $5. That was interesting.
And I think it was even still in the theaters when they did that.
Yes. So that is the advantage with K-Scape. K-Scape, you get it first. Okay, and I'm not saying like eons, months and months first, but typically it's
sometimes
a couple weeks.
It's while the movie's still in the theaters. Sometimes it's like right after.
I think Avatar, the newest Avatar, was lowered to $10, on Kaleidoscape if you wanted to watch that.
I like the first one better, so I can see that.
Did you see the second one? I didn't see the second one.
You did? I mean, I like the idea was cool, but the first one I thought was better.
I just can't. To me, the first one was such an emotional.
Well, the problem is they scrapped the second story.
Oh, okay.
There's actually, between the first one and the third one, there's a whole nother story that happened that Disney said, gone. And they scrapped it, and so you're actually missing a lot of stuff.
Interesting. So that, again, the first one was such an emotional investment for me
because
because
showing up to the theater halfway through a movie.
I was interested in the 3D aspect of it when it first came out because I'm a geek, so it was a different type of investment, time investment. I just don't want to watch a 4-hour tall Smurf movie, in a way. But that's me. Some people love the movie. Some people want to go after
Smurfy.
It sounds Smurfy.
Smurfy.
So, crystal ball. As we're finishing up, what is your future?
I have a few different theories on this. I know
Okay.
what you're about to ask. What do I think?
Where do you think?
If I had a crystal ball,
yeah. Where do you think it's going? What is my? I've paid you my $5. You're doing the palm read, crystal balls, card lay it down thing. What is your read?
So I'm going to go with a familiar market. It's going to be just like the way of vinyl. Vinyl, there were record shops and all of that, and then the popularity of vinyl dropped out, and then it came back up, and they have record stores again. I think what's going to happen is you are drastically going to see a drop in inventory at big box stores such as Walmart, Best Buy, Target, so on and so forth. But then I think that's going to do is that's going to trigger the resurgence of boutique stores like Suncoast, Blockbuster, and places like that. Not necessarily those stores like how we see Circle K and 7-Eleven again, but I think you'll see stores that are dedicated to movies and hard disk media and stuff like that.
Okay, that's an exciting, less doom and gloom version of what I have. I think I agree with some of that. Some of it, it's kind of the water is, I would say, murky when it comes to it. Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say on this is I think. Man, that's a good point. I don't think I can really argue with that. But okay, let me touch on the vinyl subject. And here's a Mars topic for a minute. But I think vinyl has increased in popularity for a different reason. I don't think I don't think you'll ever see that surge happen with CDs. I don't think you're going to see it happen with tapes. But here's the reasoning behind it. So, vinyl is a very organic experience. It's literally it's a miracle that it works to begin with. It was a miracle that it worked. It still works. It's a miracle that it's come back in popularity. But I think it's come back in popularity very much like carburetors versus fuel injection. When I was a kid, every teenager wanted to play with a carburetor instead of just starting their car and driving to work just because it was cool. I think that has a little bit to do with the vinyl. I think there's an organic sexiness to vinyl that's interesting, that is a disconnected experience. And I think that's why vinyl is resurfaced. I don't see that sexy experience with Blu-ray. It just, to me, the CD and Blu-ray created what I would call the instant gratification experience.
Right.
It is. It's. I don't have to rewind my tape anymore. I don't have to look at my record for 10 minutes with reading glasses and hope I hit the right groove at a live event. You know, it's just. I think it. You know, I can immediately skip to any chapter I want, any scene I want. I can fast forward, I can pause. I can even pull the disc out, put the disc back in. The machine remembers where I was at the last time the disc was in the machine. To me, it doesn't create that experience. However, what I will say with this experience is, I think just like we discovered that MP3s were awful when they first came out, I think that it's going to take a rejuvenation and, hey, just how bad is this experience in comparison to relight the interest of that.
Because there's...
Are they going to make 300 plus million? Are they going to come back from a 300 plus $million loss? I doubt it.
Well, I mean, like, but also more people are going to realize with Blu-ray how much better it is than streaming. You know, not necessarily go down the way of Kaleidoscape, because that's going to be more of like your higher end people, because, man, it's expensive. That's just not in the cards for me.
It's just expensive. Yeah, no, it's you know, if you spend $6 to $12 grand on a Kaleidoscape, you get a machine with 2 free movies on it. That's not even including the movies. And that's not a hit against Kaleidoscape. It's just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
But for $9 grand, I have 600 or so movies.
Right. Yeah. For $9 grand, you have 600 or so movies. So there's a paradigm shift that's happening in that market. But so okay, I digress. Back to my crystal ball. You said vinyl, and I went to Mars for a minute. But I think boutique stores will be a thing. I think the cost of the disc are going to go up. They're going to have to, because it's basic economics.
Everything now is going up.
Everything's going up, but the thing is it's hard. It's going to be more expensive to produce, therefore, because not enough people are buying it, and the demand the demand's not there for that. And so it's going to cost more for them to keep doing it. You know, it's going to take more money.
You used to be able to get a can of Coke for 25 cents.
Right. You used to be able to get a can of Coke for $1. And that's what, $1.50, $2 now? I mean, now you can put a credit card in a Coke machine. So
it's like $2 now.
So my crystal ball is, I think Best Buy and Target are going to increase the amount of hard disks they're going to carry, just because it's going to be what we used to call in the restaurant industry a pop. It's going to be, there's a sudden interest in hard disk media, so all the collectors are going to come out, and people that even don't collect are going to start consuming, because that's what we do in America. We consume things as a consumer. So I think, and then of course there's always the weird people that are going to think that it's going to be worth tons of money, so they're going to rush out there and they're going to grab it real quick. And as my dad used to say, it's
like
only
the Black Diamond series of Disney films.
Right. It's only worth what some goofball is going to pay for it, is what my dad used to say. He still says it. So I think that's going to happen. I do think I love your analysis on the boutique store aspect of it. I did not think of that. I did not give that some thought, but that does bring up an interesting point for boutique stores. So meaning stores you can just go browse and bargain, and then not really dumpster dive. That's weird.
But
like
I think it'll
used
be
to do
like a vinyl shop where
Friday
you'll
night
have
at
new and
Blockbuster.
used.
Yeah, just dig through it and find neat stuff. You know, kind of like that search. So it reenacts that search. I think that the mass market is going to have to see that streaming is horrible in comparison to disc, but in most cases it falls into that good enough territory. Now let me say this though.
Cable sucked too.
Well,
but people still watched it.
But here's the thing. There are more people that have just sound bars and TVs in living rooms
that are going to be happy with what they're getting.
That are going to be happy with what they're getting in comparison to the people that have theater rooms. It's much like a swimming pool comparison, right? It's there are maybe 3 out of 20 houses that have swimming pools, depending on neighborhoods, but 3 out of 20 that has a swimming pool. Same could be said for large theater rooms that fall into the Kaleidoscape category. However, we have seen a trend where people are pulling disc players out of their theater rooms because they just don't buy disc anymore, and to me that blows my mind. You know, you're spending $6,000 on a projector and $3,000 to $5,000 on your speakers, if not more, and $2,000 to $3,000 on your AV receiver and your amplification, and a few thousand on your cables, and just goes on and on and on and on. But then you hook it up to a $170 Apple TV that doesn't sound as good as the disc.
But that's where, just along with MP3s, people have become accepting of mediocrity.
Well, it's not mediocrity. It's not really
because because
it falls in the good enough category.
Well, it's like with MP3s, you know, which is a different subject. But with MP3s, people are told, "Hey, this sounds good." So people think that an MP3 sounds good, but it actually sounds horrible.
See, I don't think that we ever said it sounded good. I just thought it was cool that I could put Metallica next to LL Cool J, next to Pantera, next to Nine Inch Nails, next to EMF, next to Split Second, next to ZZ Top, next to Van Halen, all on one disc. And it wasn't that it sounded good. It became that generation's mixtape, which mixtapes never sounded good. So
yeah, but for the right girl, they got you noticed.
They got you noticed, which the mixtape became the mix CD of our generation, which also got you noticed. But it went full circle, but before we found out, hey, this just doesn't sound the same. But so
that goes back to that compression where it clipped off the top and the bottom.
So I think we're in for that in that particular market. I really do. I think here's Justin's crystal ball on technology, and typically I'm right on this.
Are we really going to your crystal ball this time?
Right? Yeah. No, we're really going. Yeah. No. My crystal ball became 20 minutes long. No. So no, the crystal ball. I think Apple or Amazon or Roku is going to release some type of extreme player, like Apple TV Extreme, no, I don't know anybody in the industry. I don't know this is going to happen.
But it'll just be a higher bit rate.
It just makes sense. It's going to have more processing capability.
I mean, gig speed internet is becoming the norm now.
Right. It's going to have faster processing capability. Therefore, it'll be able to interpret faster. It'll be able to interpret larger files faster, which means better quality and more uncompression. And so I think that I don't think streaming's going away. I don't think there's just going to be this massive storm the hill, boys, and go up the hill and bring the death to streaming. I don't think streaming's going anywhere. I think streaming is here to stay, and it's not going anywhere.
It's the new cable.
But I think it's going to get better. I think it'll eventually get better. It's already gotten pretty darn good to fall into that good enough category for the TV that's got the Sonos soundbar and the OLED in the living room. It's good enough for that, but it's good enough for that particular application. So, but do I think it's going away? No. Do I think disc is going to come back? Nope. I think disc is going to stay small. I think it's going to stay in that RC, what we call reference connoisseur category, very much like vinyl. To Tony's point, just in a different way. But I think, last but not least, people are pulling out of the disc player market too. So, and as we're coming to a close, LG and Samsung have stopped production of Ultra HD Blu-ray players. So you got Sony and Panasonic, and I'm talking about all your El Cheapos at Walmart too are starting to pull out of that market. So that means that you're going to have to buy a Sony or a Panasonic Blu-ray player, which Panasonic still run $1,000, Sony still run $300 to $500, but
That'll go perfect with my plasma screen.
that'll go perfect. Which, wow, what a way to cap it off! That'll go perfect with Tony's Panasonic plasma. Yeah, that still does 1080p. So
Still looks better than some of these new TVs
Still
that
looks-
are 4K.
we're gonna put a pin in that and that's another Mars topic, but as we call it, because we're going to Mars. But what I'm saying, at the end of the day, when people start pulling out of disc production, people start pulling out of player production, that's a really hard paradigm shift in the market. You've now lost over $300+ million in revenue going into that coming year. I don't know, man. The writing's on the wall on that one. It just, I would be interested to see what the vinyl production numbers are. Just if it even reached 100 million at that point, as far as revenue was concerned, or not for revenue, but production units were concerned. Do we know if that's 1.8 billion units, or was that I think it was $1.8 billion, right? 735 million to one. It went from 1.8 billion to 735 million.
Yeah, that was dollars, not units.
I don't think that was units. If you do the math, you figure $20 a piece. Divide that by $20. That's how many actual units moved, which is still a lot of units, but that's a massive loss in production. So, do I see that going back up? No. I don't see it going back up. I think it's going down. I think we're heading down in that avenue. But just without being redundant, I think streaming's the world. I think it's where we're headed. I think it just has to get better for somebody like myself or Tony, or if you're a audio video snob like us, to adopt it. It's going to have to get better before I start looking at it. Very much like Tidal, or Amazon Hi-Fi or Apple Music spatial audio and things like that. It's going to have to get better for people to start paying attention to it in the mass market. But it's going to be something where they're not buying it because it's better. I think they're buying it because it's just in front of them. They don't actually know it's better unless somebody like us tells them it's better.
People are lazy. They don't want to get off their couch.
Well, it's not even that. It's just interest. It's common interest. I know people that still pay for Pandora subscriptions because it's just cheaper than Tidal, or cheaper than Apple Music. So with that being said, touching on the streaming business model doesn't work, just like the streaming model doesn't work in the music industry. We're not going to jump into that. That's a whole different hour, folks. But it just doesn't work. So it's going to be interesting to see if price goes up or on these streaming platforms, or if it goes down as more people jump into it. I don't think they'll do well if it keeps going up. But we'll just see. We'll just have to wait and see. But crystal ball, Tony thinks it's going to boutique stores and they're going to continue to produce. I don't think they're going to stop production, so I agree with that.
Well, they never stopped producing DVDs when they went to Blu-ray.
True.
DVDs are still there.
Yeah, they're still there. So I don't know why, but they're still there.
They're cheaper. Some people are cheap.
You would think, though, but you would think it would cost more to produce a whole nother disc along with Blu-ray. Maybe that's a margin point. Maybe that's how they're making their margin up.
Just
DVD.
The DVD.
That's weird to me. Yeah, no,
Yes,
that's
their
weird.
Places.
But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, our first podcast, 1 hour and 3 minutes. Thank you for hanging out with us thus far with our digital soapbox. Moving forward into this, don't know what we're going to cover next week. Maybe forum topics, or maybe we'll just pull something out of thin air. I don't know. This one was a heavy one. It was a hard. There's so many side categories that we can get into with this, but It's just, but we managed to stay the course and do what we're doing. So, I'm Justin.
And this is Tony.
And this is our digital soapbox with our digitally speaking, holy cow, I don't know if that name's going to stick because it's hard to say, podcast numero uno. If you have a topic, please help us out. Throw a bone our way because we will be happy to cover such topic if it's fun, and if you have a question about this particular topic, happy to field those questions. We'll do the best we can. We are not an industry authority on any of these subjects. We just happen to be experts in the industry, and I have 26 plus years in the audio video world. Tony's got 30 plus years in the professional audio video world. On the pro audio side. So with that mixture of combination, we have a lot of fun things to talk about, a lot of contrast to talk about. So we'll see you next time. Have a great day, have a great weekend, or have a great whatever, whenever you listen to it, and we'll see you later.